welcome to our 2017 CNBC-TV18 Overdrive Jury Round Special. Last week we had an interesting lineup of cars for you, showing you the car contenders of the year, and this week we have the motorcycles as well as the scooter of the year contenders. Before we head into our nominees, here's a quick introduction to our jury members. Bharat Reddy might have a serious day job as the CEO of British Nutritions, but what he actually lives for is all things on two wheels. His years of saddle time on all manner of two-wheelers is one of the reasons he has been a mainstay in our jury for the past several years. As the man behind performance racing, Vivek Jaising has been at the forefront of riding as well as safety for motorcyclists for years. That focus and his years and years of riding experience is what he brings to our jury. Anand Dharmaraj. Between racing in the United States, running motorcycle tours all over the world, running one of India's best track schools and running a motorcycle garage in Bangalore, there isn't much that Anand doesn't do in the world of two wheels. Sarat Kumar needs no introduction. As the only Indian to have ridden in the MotoGP, Sarat's pace and ability to evaluate two-wheelers is second to none. Shumi, as we all know him, is one of the most experienced motorcycle journalists in the country. There's not many others who can match his enthusiasm and knowledge about all things on two wheels. A part of Overdrive's editorial team, Rishad Modi has been driving and riding everything under the sun for the past 6 years. Apart from being an accomplished auto journalist, he gets behind the wheel of a race car every now and then. Overdrive's resident motorcycle tester Ashok George has been testing motorcycles for 6 years now. From 100cc scooters to 2400cc monsters, Ashok has ridden and tested almost every motorcycle sold in India.
The TVS Apache for me was a little bit of a surprise because compared to the older Apaches that came in the previous years, this thing has great styling. Just the way it sits on the tarmac is very good. I love the sharp angular design aspect of it. The only thing that lets it down, in my opinion, is the motor. I don't think it's strong enough. I wish in the higher end they could have made it a little bit more potent, and it would have definitely been a very good contender for the Bike of the Year.
Apache RTR 200, in this segment it's very difficult to select a bike whenever you're going to buy. Also, you have to look forward the performance, because today if some around 20-25 they want to buy bike, means they're looking forward, first thing is look, second thing is performance, and third thing is handling. But this bike having everything, I can say, because they developed a lot comparing the 150s and 160s. Now the fork stability and the rear swing arm, everything, the stability they increased. So because of that, while riding on the high speed, the bike maintaining the balance. So whenever you're turning and you're approaching at the racetrack corners, everything is perfect. So you're not feeling unstable. The bike will have torque, but it won't have a top speed. But this bike have everything, like gear to gear, still till 6th gear we are getting a nice torque, and also we are getting good travel with every gear. So it's making more sense while riding on the highway, also if you want to ride at the racetrack wherever you want.
It stands out when you look at it, the motorcycle. It seems like it's a motorcycle that probably is meant to do a lot. But if I was to ride it on a racetrack versus, let's say I took it to the Himalayas, I think it has two different functions. What stands out again when I come from a handling perspective, the chassis, the suspension seems to work well for a touring motorcycle. But the engine, I think it's probably well known by now that the motorcycle is definitely underpowered. While at the same time, I think for somebody who's not used to a big bike, but at the same time upgrading from a small bike to a big bike and saying, I just want to be, for example, touring, I want to go around in the city, it sort of serves a purpose, but nothing really to write home about to say, yeah, you know what, this is the motorcycle that I'll buy.
The Royal Enfield Himalayan is, to me, the best bike the company has made to date, and that is largely down to the chassis. This chassis, we've tested off-road in numerous scenarios, Ladakh, Maharashtra, all over the place, and it has really impressed with its willingness to take abuse and handle a lot of rough stuff. That being said, the engine, I wish it had a little bit more power, maybe 5 or 6 horsepower, because this is a touring bike, this is an adventure touring bike, and you want to be able to sustain 100 to 120 kilometers comfortably on the highway. And this bike is not very happy doing that. Its sweet spot is between 80 and 90.
The Royal Enfield Himalaya, I want to talk about the quality area because they improved a lot. The riding, the position is okay, especially for touring. Of course, they made for touring and off-roading. It's working very well. But the braking is very bad, front brake I can say, because whenever I apply front brake, it's like, I'm not feeling like disc, it's like drum brake, it's whole technology.
The Benelli TNT25 is a really nice looking motorcycle, but unfortunately under that good looking style there isn't a very large amount of substance. For example, I found the 250cc engine a little weak. It doesn't feel like a 250, it's not very rev happy. The chassis is fairly stable. It's a nice handling motorcycle. I wouldn't say it's the most eager in its segment. It's there, it's planted, it's reasonably rewarding to ride. But then you factor in the price and you realize it's significantly more expensive than its rivals and it just doesn't score here.
The Benelli TNT25, I think it's a good looking motorcycle. The handling of it on the track is actually very compliant, stable mid-corner, and the chassis I think is one of the best chassis we have ridden this year. The only problem I've faced though, and I've never faced this kind of problem in any motorcycle I've ridden in all these years, is this is the first engine I've ever ridden that is scared of its own red line. I wish Benelli had improved on that and built an engine to suit the chassis, and I think that package would have been the perfect bike at this category.
I think the Benelli TNT25 handles really well. It's one of its strong points. The suspension is set up sporty, so it is a little stiff riding, but that aids it in handling. Turn-in is quick, it remains more or less stable through the corners. But it is very, very vibey, and I think that becomes a problem when you're continuously sitting at high revs. The design itself is good looking, but it's also very similar to a lot of other bikes in the segment. It could have done without all the stickers on it, but for me what kills it is the vibrations. And at 1.87 lakhs, the problem is that there are a lot of other bikes in that price bracket and the competition is very, very, very harsh.
The Honda Hornet has a long history in India in the sense that it's not a brand new motorcycle. There's a lot of stuff on the motorcycle that's been in the market for a long time. It's primarily a new position of the product, and visually it's an interesting looking product to be sure. But I think Honda is due for a new 150cc platform to come because I think the game has moved on. So it has all the virtues that we expect from a Honda motorcycle. So it's well made, the ride quality is excellent, the handling is good, there's lots of grip. The engines are smooth, the economy is reasonable, but ultimately what I'm missing is a sense of freshness and a sense of fun. Both of these are not there in the Hornet, and there are other motorcycles that do it well. To give you an example, both the FZ and the Gixxer I think are better than this in terms of the feel of it, in terms of the enthusiasm of it.
Honda Hornet 160, very nice catchy graphics. I think it'll quite enthuse the younger audiences. The front shroud in the bodywork gives it a Street Fighter kind of look, and when you're on the motorcycle it feels a lot more larger than it actually is, and it's a good feeling. The LED cluster is a nice touch, but the information provided on it is pretty basic and simple. Perhaps they could have done a little more with that. I think Honda's tried to bring in a little bit of performance to combine with the handling and comfort with this motorcycle. So the engine feels nice and it feels peppy. It revs quite freely. Suspension overall is quite stable. Brakes are nice and sharp. It has a good feel to it. Seat is comfortable. I think it's a good cross between city as well as urban and as well as highway riding.
The Avenger 150 is poised as an entry-level cruiser, and at the price that it comes in, anybody who wants to choose an entry-level cruiser is going to be satisfied with it. Everything about the bike is basic and entry-level, from the build quality to the ride quality and the comfort level. So that's what I think about that.
The Bajaj 150 hasn't changed much since I think the last year. The bike that we had here, pretty uninvolved. It seems like a cruiser, a commuter, but it's not something that's any significantly different. There was no difference in the power, there's no difference in engine characteristics or in terms of the gearbox. It seems very much the same. So pretty uninvolved in terms of what the motorcycle is, but it is a commuter motorcycle, and that's about it.
Well, the Hero Achieva i3S is a tried and tested model of a commuter motorcycle. I think it does everything that category of motorcycle does. In my opinion, it's kind of like a vanilla bike. Everybody will love it. Whoever buys it won't have any complaints about it. And you know, it does nothing great, but it does everything to a satisfactory level.
Hero Achiever, it's probably fits best into a commuter category. I think I didn't understand what the i3S itself meant, but there's some features of it I think which are probably useful from a commuter standpoint, but otherwise a very normal motorcycle that is almost bordering on boring in terms of what a motorcycle might want to do. So I don't think there's really much to talk about in terms of the i3S. I think there's some small features which might help a commuter, for example the clutch start, etc. But that's about it I think in terms of what the bike is. The gearbox felt okay, the handling is marginally okay. I wouldn't rate it any different from any other motorcycle that you are, and it is primarily catering to a commuter segment.
Bajaj V15, interesting. First sense of thought that comes to mind is nostalgia, patriotism, and I think they brought in a little bit of that want to own kind of feel with the presence of the metal that they've included in the build of this motorcycle of the INS Vikrant. The console LED, nice, basic, simple, effective, and the styling I feel is a cross between a commuter and a cruiser. I think their target audience was people between the range of 30 to 45 is the target audience that they're looking out for, and I think the bike suits its purpose very well. I would think probably a love it or hate it kind of look, but between yesterday and today that we've ridden the motorcycle, it's grown on me. The look is somewhere about close to love it today. It was hated yesterday.
The performance and handling is I'm not feeling happy with that one, because while riding the handlebar position is very far from seating area, so it's making more uneasy, and you're getting very soon your shoulder pain. Also, it's not comfortable for street, because in the street you have to turn the bike a lot and you have to handle the bike in the traffic area also, so it won't be easy with that bike. And the engine performance is lagging performance the bike are having, because the bike is around 150cc, but still the power delivery is very like 80 to 100cc bike. So the bike is overall looks heavy, also while riding also it's feeling more heavy.
The Splendor iSmart is meant to be a basic, simple commuter, and I think that job it does reasonably well. It runs into vibration as early as 70-80 kilometers an hour, and at the racetrack in this environment, perhaps you notice it a little bit more, but out on the street, it fits the environment, and there's honestly not much room to maneuver in the commuter space. But is it the best 110cc bike you can buy today? I would say no, and I would say that on the engine performance front, I would say that on the ride quality front, I would say that on the handling front, there are motorcycles that do it better. So is it better than the Splendor? Yes. Is it better than all the other commuters it commutes with? No, I think there's scope for improvement.
The Splendor iSmart 110 I think is a really nice bike. It looks similar to all the others in the segment, but the graphics and the paint job makes it stand out. It's got some interesting bits of technology like the i3S system, which is essentially a start-stop system. The engine is punchy enough for urban use. It's got reasonable amounts of torque to just putt around in higher gears all day. The ride quality is really nice. It's set up softer, so if your commute is like ridden with potholes or in any urban situation, it makes sense. It's not the most refined engine. I think there's a little bit more that Hero has to do in terms of refinement for the engine alone. But on the whole, at around 56,000 rupees, I think it is reasonable value for money.
The TVS Victor is a really fun commuter. It's a good looking motorcycle. It's well made. The paint quality is great. The switchgear quality is good. There's good features on the bike. But beyond that, the chassis is very well tuned. It's comfortable on the street, and it proved to be surprisingly enjoyable on the track. The brakes are very nice, not scary for the average commuter, but good performance. And I think of the small motorcycles here, that's the one that made me smile the most.
What I really like about the TVS Victor are two things. First is that the engine is super refined. And the second is that it's actually quite a sporty handler. It's surprising from a motorcycle in this segment, but on the racetrack it held its own pretty well. It is reasonably efficient. It's around upwards of 60 kilometers to the liter, which is, I'd say, the average of motorcycles in this segment. And at 55,000 rupees, it is one of the cheaper 110s in the market. But that doesn't mean that TVS is skimped on anything like build quality or paint quality. In fact, the Victor has one of the best paint qualities that I've seen amongst all of the 110s.
Now, we've seen some interesting propositions in the scooter segment this year, which is a segment which, as you know, is where the volumes lie. And here are the nominees for the Scooter of the Year.
The SR150 being in the Scooter of the Year category, I think is a little bit unfair because it handles and it rides more like a motorcycle than any scooter that I've ever ridden. The handling is what stands out the most for me. The suspension is set up stiff, so out on the roads, I know that the suspension doesn't really work. As in, the ride quality does get a little harsh. But out on the racetrack, it is phenomenal. It is so much fun to ride. The 150cc motor gives it a lot of punch out there. And at 65,000 rupees X, that was the introductory price, it is tremendous value for money.
The Aprilia scooter, for me, I've always loved it ever since I saw its predecessor, the SR50. But with the new scooter that's come out in India, I think they do everything the previous model did great again. It's very powerful, it looks amazing, and for the price point that it comes, I genuinely think that it's had a paradigm shift in the way scooters are going to be looked at in our country. The only negative I can say about that is that the instrument cluster is very basic. Other than that, I think it's a perfect scooter.
The new Suzuki Access has some nice color ranges which really suit the scooter, which makes it look so much better. The LED console adds a little bit of modern touch to the motorcycle. They have some nice storage space at the knees, which is a thoughtful implementation into the new scooter. The ride and the handling is much better because of the wheel and tire size chosen. The brakes, I think, are even better than what they were last time. The instrument console, besides the LED, is quite basic. I think maybe a little bit of a modern touch there would have helped. The power handling makes it quite comfortable to ride on streets as well as highways. Overall, I think the engine spec and the feel and the ride of the scooter puts it up there with its competition. I think it's a nice value for money scooter.
When I ride that scooter, I felt the most smooth, and it's a very good seating position for street riding. Of course, in this heavy traffic, you should ride very relaxed, and you have to be very calm. For that, the scooter will help you a lot to ride, because the scooter having a power delivery also very nice, and also the traveling distance is very good, because some scooter they have a very good power delivery, but the traveling length is very short. Because of that, if you are taking for highway or some other long distance, it will make you more tired, because the vibration will be increased, the scooter gearing is finished, so because of that the bike is not moving faster. But this one very good, and also the front fork is working very well with telescoping. So it's a very good improvement from Suzuki.
The Yamaha Razor, I think it has a very cool design. It's very edgy. It's like its name suggests. It's got a lot of sharp angles to it. And when you look at it first, you expect the bike to be a lot of fun and very cool. The only thing that lets it down, in my opinion, is a drony little engine. I wish they'd improved on it, and that's probably the only letdown on the in that scooter. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good package.
The Razor R, I think, has not changed since the last, I don't know, probably 2 years since I've ridden it. It seems to have either gotten worse, in my opinion, because what I rode on the track today has gotten the handling seems to be off. Now it could be because of smaller issues, but at the same time, it felt like it didn't have any punch. Not that you're looking for a lot of power in a scooter, but at the same time, it just felt like a very poor version of a scooter that, that I wouldn't really want to put my money down on.
The Honda NAVI is a really pleasant surprise because it comes from a company that has been literally churning out lakhs and lakhs of generic scooters. And suddenly they gave us something that no one saw coming, and no one knows how to quite characterize actually. Like Honda says, it's fun. It's a simple, built to a cost scooter. It's very affordable, and it's not the most sophisticated thing around, but it's great fun to ride. It's unique, and I think it's going to create a very good impression for Honda in the buyer's mind, especially young buyers' minds.
So the NAVI is based on the Activa and it's lighter than the Activa, so the performance is obviously a given, and it is a nice peppy little scooter, and I will make the distinction. I think it is a scooter, it's not a motorcycle no matter what it looks like. Ride quality and handling, well, the handling is good because the weight is low, but I think ride gets better if you put heavier riders on it. So I think there is an opportunity for Honda to refine the suspension a little bit more. But for somebody like my weight, which is a reasonable amount of weight, I think 80-82 kilos is a reasonable amount of weight to put on the NAVI. At that, it is still a little bit of a bouncy scooter and it doesn't stabilize fully. So I think there's a little bit more work that can be done on the suspension. And I think overall, even if you take it as a design, as a package, I think this is a package that has a lot of potential. It's very cheeky, it's a lot of fun, but a lot of sophistication can arrive in this package, and I don't think it's a matter of cost. And talking about cost, it's excellent value for money.
So here are all the contenders for the CNBC-TV18 Overdrive Awards, and we will announce the winners on the 14th of December. So stay tuned to Overdrive and CNBC-TV18.